All right, welcome. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy, what is it? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me. We have a fantastic show planned for you today. A lot to discuss, or something I'm interested in discussing today. Was it the Cincinnati Bengals and the Washington Commanders in action last night? I thought there were some pretty interesting things that went on in that game as it relates to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think there's some interesting things going on with the Bengals and the Browns. More news coming out of Browns camp. Joe Flacco, as predicted, will be the starter. But the Browns are also talking about keeping 4 quarterbacks. We'll discuss that. Rich Eisen returned to SportsCenter last night. Rich Eisen, after I think being gone for 20 plus years over at the NFL Network, circles back to ESPN to host SportsCenter. We will discuss that as well with Steve Kim. And I've got some thoughts on Angel Reese and As the WNBA Turns. I'm going to share with you all some threats that I've been receiving and tell you why it's somewhat and kind of important. And then there's one other thing that I want to talk with you guys about. Oh, Amanda Seales, the actress, the CIA plant or whatever, black woman, light skin, she calls herself some sort of comedian. She got in a debate with a bunch of conservative young black people, and it did not go well. Me and Shemeka and Virgil Walker will talk about that today on this show, Fearless. And then on Harmony, I taped an interview yesterday with a young man named Chris Brunet, who's done a lot of homework on Nick Fuentes. And so we'll play that interview today on the Harmony channel. It's kind of fascinating. I'm trying to do my homework and get up to speed on Nick Fuentes, and Chris Brunet has been a part of that. And I'll share that 35-minute interview. Chris wrote a 33,000-word expose on Nick Fuentes. I think it's titled "The Top 50 Pedophile Stories Related to Nick Fuentes," and that sounds dramatic and over the top, but I do believe that's what the title of it was. I can't. Anyway, the Harmony show, as it relates to Nick Fuentes, as I continue to go down this rabbit hole and trying to figure out what I think about Nick Fuentes, what I think about the Groypers movement, as I try to continue to go down this road so I can explain to young people and young men in particular why I have concerns and why there's some questions that I think need to be asked. And so I'm not sure if I'm interested in having Nick Fuentes on or even discussing Nick Fuentes, his thoughts about Israel or this or that. I'm trying to understand who he is. And we'll get some more information, some more insight today on the Harmony channel. So make sure you're there for that. That'll be around 11:30, 11:45. Before I go anywhere today, I want to thank our great friends at Flying Ace Spirits for making today's show possible. If you've had one bourbon, you've had them all, right? Not true. Flying Ace Straight Bourbon doesn't just check the usual boxes, it rewrites them. This is a blend of carefully aged bourbon selected not for marketing hype, but for taste. What you get is a smooth, full-bodied sip with real character. You'll catch notes of caramel, vanilla, toasted spice, and just the right hint of fruit. It's bold without being harsh, complex but not complicated. No smoke and mirrors, just a really good bourbon that delivers on every pour. If you're looking for something new that actually lives up to the hype, this is it. Order online at flyingacespirits.com. Use the promo code BLAZE for free shipping. Flying Ace, I may have some tonight. I got an important dinner that I got to attend. Maybe I'll have some Flying Ace tonight. Thank you guys for sponsoring today's episode. All right, let's get into it. And I'm going to start. You got to be old school to get this analogy that I'm going to make. but I'm going to start by calling the Bengals and the Browns the Ohio players. I'm sure John Hadley knows what I'm talking about, the Ohio players. It was a band in the 1970s that, had a lot of good songs, but wasn't quite great. Wasn't quite great, but had a lot of good songs or songs that you can remember, but not, they were kind of, you'd buy their album. This is back in the days when you'd have to buy a complete album to hear what someone said or what they sang about. There'd be 2 or 3 good songs on it, and then the rest of the album would be, but they had some classic songs. They had some, and so that's what the Bengals and the Browns, and at the end of this, I'm going to tell you my top 5 Ohio player songs, but I'm going to wait to do that a little bit later and just tell you the watching and seeing the highlights and seeing the discussion about the Cincinnati Bengals last night in their game against the Washington Commanders. Joe Burrow out there from the first quarter and maybe a tiny bit of the second quarter looked pretty good, but his offensive line looked like trash. And the defense gave up 14 points in the first quarter and looked like trash. And I'm sitting there watching the Bengals with Joe Burrow, who some people think perhaps is the best quarterback in all of the NFL. He certainly has the 2 best receivers combination in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Jamar Chase is getting paid a bunch of money. T. Higgins getting paid $28 million a year. They got everything, but they have no defense, and they're potentially, with Mike Brown, the owner, the cheapest team in all of professional sports. They got Trey Hendrickson. They need a defense, and a guy that's had 35 sacks the past 2 seasons. They're in a contract dispute. He's not showing up. He wants his deal redone, extended before it runs out. He wants to strike now while the iron is hot. I don't blame him. It seems like a no-brainer. You've invested all this money in Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. You've invested all this money in your offense, but you're not going to play defense. But this is what the Bengals do. This is what Mike Brown does. He got into it. Remember, they had the quarterback Carson Palmer. This is before Andy Dalton. And he basically forced his way out of Cincinnati, said, hey, I can't take it anymore. This organization does everything too cheaply. They, for years, always had the smallest scouting department. The Bengals are a mom and pop organization in a league that has some of the richest owners, and mom and pop just doesn't cut it. And so then I started thinking about the Cleveland Browns, and I started thinking about what it must be like to be a pro football fan in the entire state of Ohio. The Ohio players, the Browns and the Bengals, they'll put out some hits from time to time, but they're not going to win a Super Bowl. Here's a state, Ohio, with 2 professional football franchises, and the state of Ohio has no Super Bowls. The Bengals, I believe, have been 3 times to the Super Bowl, lost all 3. The Cleveland Browns haven't sniffed a Super Bowl, haven't really, well, they played in AFC championship games against the Denver Broncos in the 1980s, or late 90s, 80s, 90s, early 90s, late 80s. Late 80s, because, Marty Schottenheimer was the head coach of the Browns, and he came to the Kansas City Chiefs after that. So late 1980s, Browns sniffed the AFC championship game, but flamed out against the Broncos. But no Super Bowl appearances for the Browns, no Super Bowl wins for the Cincinnati Bengals. What state has 2 professional football teams with long histories that in the 50-plus odd years of the Super Bowl, no Super Bowls? Only Ohio. Only Ohio. And that's because the Browns, particularly, are perhaps the most incompetently run franchise in all of sports. And they just made news by, they didn't make news, let's say this. Adam Schefter just hinted at reporting in his understanding that the Cleveland Browns are going to keep 4 quarterbacks this year. So on one half of the state, you got the Cincinnati Bengals won't pay superstar defensive end on a team that plays bad defense. Looks like they're listening to trade offers for Trey Hendrickson. It looks like that's going to end in calamity. And here are the incompetently run Cleveland Browns. They're potentially going to start this NFL season with 4 quarterbacks on the roster because the franchise decided to take 2 rookie quarterbacks, and they decided to take the one rookie quarterback that comes with a DEI circus attached to him, Shedeur Sanders. They can't do what's best for their football team because they decided in the 5th round, hey, yeah, let's take Shedeur Sanders. And let's invite that racial circus to our franchise. Yes, we've already taken Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. Yes, we seem pretty committed to Joe Flacco as our starting quarterback. Yes, we picked up Kenny Pickett. And so now they have to compromise their 53-man roster out of fear. Like if they did what they probably should do, cut Shedeur Sanders, and yes, I know he was amazing. He completed every pass in his one exhibition appearance, and oh my God, he's just incredible. I get it. But what they should do is cut Shedeur Sanders, but they can't. Because Jimmy Haslam, the owner that looked at Deshaun Watson with all those allegations of inappropriate action toward massage therapists and said, hey, yeah, let's give him $250 million, all guaranteed. That owner, looking at all the criminal and civil complaints against Deshaun Watson, decided to give a black quarterback $240 million guaranteed. Well, yeah, now he's a racist because he's setting up Shedeur Sanders for failure. And so ESPN and Adam Schefter are reporting that the Browns are going to keep 4 quarterbacks. And so I did some research this morning, or I had my team do some research this morning, on teams that have started the season with 4 quarterbacks. Generally speaking, when you start with 4 quarterbacks, that means you have no quarterbacks. 4 equals 0 when it comes to keeping quarterbacks on your roster. Most teams keep 3. Some may go as low as 2. But you keep 3 quarterbacks. You only got 53 roster spots. You just can't have your whole QB room filled up. This was insanity when they drafted Shedeur Sanders and put themselves in this jam. I want to go through the history of teams that, this is according to CBS Sports, that have opened week 1 of the NFL season with 4 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. The 2013 Washington Redskins, they finished 3-13. The 2016 New York Jets, they finished 5-11. The 2018 Miami Dolphins, they finished 7-9. The 2020 New York Jets, they finished 2-14. And the 2021 New Orleans Saints, the only team to check in with a winning record at 9-8. Jameis Winston, I believe, started 7 of those games and went 5-2 as a starter. Taysom Hill went 4-1 as a starter, and they figured out how to win that. But you're not putting together a Super Bowl team when you start the season with 4 quarterbacks. And that's why I was blown away when a football commentator that I really respect, Danny Cannell, suggested that the Browns could win 9 or 10 games, that they could duplicate what the New Orleans Saints did with Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, that the Browns somehow could do that with Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. The Browns have invited a headache onto their franchise, Shedeur Sanders, a distraction onto their franchise, Shedeur Sanders. They've boxed themselves in. They're going to hear constant conversations. First time Joe Flacco has a 2-interception game, and it will happen. Joe Flacco is an old relic. Joe Flacco isn't Tom Brady at 40 years old. He isn't even Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old. He's Joe Flacco. A guy that, made it to a Super Bowl, a guy that, had a really good career, but has never been an elite quarterback. No one can really even believe he's still playing at this point. So there will be a quarterback controversy in Cleveland. You can mark that down. You can guarantee it. And it started on draft day when the franchise selected Shedeur Sanders. The state of Ohio, as it relates to professional football, is cursed. It's the worst state in football. And that's amazing to say, considering how great high school football is in Ohio, how great the Ohio State Buckeyes are in college football. But then you get to professional football and you got one laughing stock in the Cleveland Browns and another franchise, the Cincinnati Bengals, that are cheap and a bit of a laughing stock. And they will be a laughing stock this season. If somehow they don't get a deal done with Trey Hendrickson and that defense looks as bad or worse than it did last year, and if that offensive line continues to provide Joe Burrow Ole blocks, and what is standing in the way of Joe Burrow establishing himself as the legitimate competitor to Patrick Mahomes? It's been the offensive line. It's been the injuries. Joe Burrow gets hurt this season playing behind an offensive line that's suspect, or having to throw on every down because that defense can't stop anybody. Joe Burrow will turn into the next Carson Palmer, and he'll say, you know what? Love Jamar Chase, love T. Higgins. Don't mind being here in my home state. Joe Burrow, I believe, grew up right outside of Athens, Ohio, or right inside of Athens, Ohio. But he may have to go deuces. I got to go to an organization that's going to put the pieces around me to win more consistently and not get beat up behind a shaky offensive line and a team with no defense. The Ohio players, the worst state in professional football, Cincinnati and Cleveland. And so just before I get to Steve Kim, and I don't know if Steve Kim's got a pretty good Rolodex, a pretty good memory of Anita Baker and a lot of good R&B music, but does he know the Ohio players? Before we get out here and get to Steve Kim and widen the conversation, I want to tell you, want to share with you my top 5 Ohio player songs. This list will be controversial to those that remember the Ohio players. For the rest of you, hopefully it'll be educational. I Want to Be Free would be number 1 on my list. Fire, not Fire and Desire. You're thinking of Rick James and Tina Marie, but Fire. Then they had a fun little song, Roller Coaster. And then a song that maybe should have been my number 1, Skin Tight. Skin tight to your britches. Anyway, Skin Tight. Great song. And then Heaven Must Be Like This. The Ohio players, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Thank you. I'm going to move on to Steve Kim, bring him into my Browns-Bengal discussion on a more serious note. Before we do that, though, I do want to tell you guys about the protein that I've incorporated into my everyday routine, and it's from Brickhouse. It's their whey protein, and the chocolate is amazing. I had it with almond milk last night, and it was incredible. If you're like me, you've tried these other protein powders and ended up disappointed. They promise big results, more muscle, better energy, killer workouts, but they don't do squat. All I got were stomach aches, gas, and a taste that was just plain awful. Then I got a scoop from the doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition. They clued me in on why most protein powders fail. Low-quality protein mixed with cheap fillers like maltodextrin, soy, corn, syrup, sodium, cellulose. No wonder they're letting us down. That's why I switched to Brickhouse Whey Protein. This isn't your average protein powder. It's bioengineered by doctors, not some marketing team. It's the new science in protein that delivers results you feel right away. We're talking pro-level muscle growth, serious strength, a lean toned physique, crazy energy, and super fast workout recovery. And it's lactose-free, so no bloating or stomach issues ever. Don't let junk protein sabotage how you look and feel. Switch to Brickhouse Whey for guaranteed results or your money back. Head to thenewwhey.com. That's the new Whey, THENEWWHEY.com. Use the promo code Fearless for 20% off. That's Fearless at thenewwhey.com. Get the protein that actually works. Gentlemen, not exaggerating or lying when I say this, I've been, and I was telling Tiffany this yesterday, I've been working on just staying on my feet and moving around even more. You guys hear me talk about my workouts on my Stairmaster, and working out is great. But you gotta be just more active. And when you sit behind a desk and talk for a living, and you're on conference calls and Zooms and all that for a living, getting up and just moving around, and I've been focused on this, trying to be up and on my feet, moving around 3-4 hours a day. That doesn't include and throw a workout on top of that. And that's why last night I'm walking, watching television, doing some research, but I'm just up on my feet. And that's why last night I was like, hey, let me get some of my Brickhouse Whey protein before I go to bed because I was feeling a little bit hungry. Quench my hunger. Let me get a good night's sleep without feeling bloated like I had just eaten something. Try Brickhouse, thenewwhey.com, thenewwhey.com. Use the promo code Fearless. All right, don't go anywhere. Steve Kim, just around the corner. Next. Stephen A. Smith's got a 6-inch screw in his knee.
Does he really? Oh, man. And by the way, you know, Riley Green just released one of my old songs, Cowboy and Me.
Did you get paid off that?
Really? Yeah.
Is that where the cash register ring?
I want to pick up a couple of jet skis.
Today we have a guest who was a high-level football recruit.
Absolutely.
University of Michigan quarterback, David Cone. Welcome to BYOG.
Welcome, David.
Life ain't been all roses, boy, I've had my share of downs. But if you don't count the money, richest man in town.
You have Dolly Parton's producer, and you're getting ahead of myself.
Dolly Parton's producer produced my record. And
The same person that produced Big-Breasted, Blonde, Attractive Woman. It's like, you know what?
Working
sounded a lot like Dolly. I mean, Tom Brady had been gone for
7 years.
Did you ever get to meet Brady?
No,
Never?
but I'd like to, so if you can hook that up.
He never came back to Michigan and talked to you guys before a game?
No.
The original Vanilla Ice. You kind of look like Vanilla Ice a little bit.
I know,
with the hair.
And Colin Cowherd called. Colin Cowherd loved the show after we put it on video. I became in front of the camera. I was on the show then, and it was only 3 months later Ben Shapiro himself called. And we made the movie Lady Ballers.
I was going to say, this guy's been an actor, a singer, a videographer, a 5-star quarterback.
Not 5-star.
You're 1 for 1. You put the bat on the ball. Let's see if that was a fluke or not.
I used to drink, and I still do, but I used to do.
The Everly Brothers, Johnny Cash, and Elvis Presley. Okay, and so when we were talking
And
about
he looks
those
like
things,
every one of them.
yeah,
I was
You
gonna say-
got the look every one of those names you mentioned.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you up here below So fly
All right, welcome back. Time for the Korean Cosell, Steve Kim. Steve, I've got a very, very simple question for you. Pick your poison, Jimmy Haslam or Mike Brown. If you had to choose between those two as the owner of your NFL franchise, Jimmy Haslam of the Browns. He'll spend money. He will spare no expense. He's got Myles Garrett. He's got Deshaun Watson. He'll spend money, but he'll also do some really stupid things or allow his organization to. Or Mike Brown, who is cheap, but they do figure out a way every 15, 20 years to make it to the Super Bowl. Pick your poison, Mike Brown, Jimmy Haslam.
All right, that's the old, what would you rather have for a few days, the cold or the flu? Based on his football DNA, I would have to go with Mr. Brown. And as you pointed out, Jason, it wasn't that long ago that the team with the stripes on their helmet made a Super Bowl. In fact, they've made 3. It was 81, 88, and then a few years ago, the Browns, post Marty Schottenheimer, they have been basically a very bad and maybe mediocre at best franchise. And I get the sense that, they are a mom-and-pop organization. They've had players pay for their own jock straps and sanitary socks at one time. But I get the sense they still make more sound football decisions on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis than the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, the Browns are the football team that you could do a major league type movie off of. Because, some of what they've done it's giving Deshaun Watson that contract, if you saw that in a movie, you'd be like, I don't believe that. No one would be that stupid. No one would do that.
Well,
but yes, they actually did it.
But Jason, wait a minute. We have to put this in context. In the movie Major League, I believe their owner was Rachel, whatever her face was. In other words, the cinematic version of Georgia Frontiere, who unfortunately was my owner when I was on
Jeannie
Die
Buss.
Hard. All right. There's a difference, though, between Haslam and Rachel, whatever her name was. She was trying to be bad. Remember what the subject or the plot of the movie is? We're going to tank the team so bad. We don't care how good of a manager Lou Martin is. We're going to move the team to Florida. Okay, I get it. The Rams actually did that as they went to St. Louis. What's Haslam's excuse?
He has none. And what do you think of Adam Schefter's reporting, insinuation that the Browns are going to keep 4 quarterbacks? I think it doesn't shock me. The moment they took Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, they had no choice, or they'd be called racist if they let go of Shedeur. This is like they built in QB controversy, insanity right into the roster and the season. It's like they wanted this to happen, and now they have it.
Yeah, this is what I'd call the QB conundrum. Jason, as soon as they drafted Shedeur, here's what's going to happen, though. So if he secures a roster spot, whether he's on IR or he's the 4th quarterback, then you know what's going to happen by October when this team is inevitably 2-5. Free Shedeur. Let him play or let him go. See, they're in a no-win situation. And, Jason, you talk about the 4-quarterback situation. Again, that's been done before. The Patriots did it because they like Tom Brady. But I do not recall a time when 2 quarterbacks were drafted so close to each other in the mid-rounds. I've talked about this before. We've had situations with Heath Schuler and Gus Frerotte. We had RG3, and then we had Kirk Cousins. So you get the first-round quarterback, then you get the guy that's clearly defined as the backup or developmental guy. Now, in both those situations, the mid-round guy actually outperformed the top 5 pick, both with the Redskins at that time. So I don't remember the last time a quarterback was ever drafted in the 3rd round, and the team says, you know what? We need to fortify that room with the 4th guy. Let's go to the 5th round. I don't understand this, Jason. One respect, Flacco's your starter. So if those 2 rookies are going to make the roster, I don't see why they're keeping Kenny Pickett then. Pickett's not your future, and he's certainly not your present.
It's probably because they don't believe in either Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel at this point. But my in a just and right world, they release Shedeur, in my opinion. But I mean, now he's hurt, so that
Yeah,
changes
what a
things.
stunner.
But it makes it a little harder. But in your mind, the smart move would be just release Kenny Pickett.
Right, because this would appease everybody. And look, Dylan Gabriel played well. I believe that his upside is a long-time career backup that'll bank a lot of money. Think Chase Daniels, Charlie Batch. I think that's a very good living. You get to be around football. It beats being in a cubicle. And get this, Jason, the best fringe benefit. At age 45, you could still walk. It's a good job. It really is. It beats selling insurance. But the other thing is, this is the reality, and why I might just say, you know what, Kenny? You're good enough to be one of the 64 quarterbacks in the league, but there's no future with us. Let's roll the dice and see what we have in the two young kids, because this is, I think, in the back of everybody's mind. I don't know if it's the elephant in the room. There is a chance that the future Browns quarterback is actually playing this autumn on Saturday afternoons.
Probably a damn good chance of that. I want to. Danny Cannell is someone that I respect a lot. He somehow has figured out or come up with a prediction. He could see the Browns winning 9 or 10 games this season. Wow. I can't figure it out. They're in the same division with Lamar Jackson.
Right.
They're in the same division with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
They're in the same division with, he may be spoiled and past his expiration date, but Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers that have gone all in. You're in the toughest division in football, and Danny Cannell can see 9 or 10 victories out of this team. Let's hear from Danny Cannell.
What is the expectation now that the Browns have? How many games are we looking at that you could see them potentially going out there and winning?
I think they could be a 9 or a 10 win team. I mean, and I do like the makeup of this team. I think the style of play of what they want to do offensively suits Joe Flacco well. I think it's one of the reasons that Shedeur excelled in the preseason, because it's more of a play action, pocket passer type of system, which I think fits Flacco to a T. I know they've got to figure out Quinshon Judkins and some of the issues that are going on with him, but I really like Dylan Sampson. Their pick that they took a little bit later to possibly step in and fill a void in the backfield for them. So, and then we got to think about what they did this offseason too with Myles Garrett, paying him. Their defense, I think, is going to be one of the things for them to hang their hat on. Mason Graham, one of the rookie first-round picks that they brought in there, is a player that potentially could wreak some havoc. So I think it is more of a traditional offensive style where you're taking some play-action shots down the field, trying to run the football, and playing really good aggressive defense.
This team opens up against the Bengals and Joe Burrow. They got to play the Bengals twice. They got to play Lamar and the Ravens twice. They got to play the Steelers twice. 9 or 10 victories? That seems crazy to me. They got the worst quarterback situation, and the worst quarterback room in their division. How does that team win 9 or 10 games?
They don't. And I'll say this. If you're Jimmy Haslam and the brain trust, that might be the worst thing. Jason, if you are going to be in that range of 9 to 10 wins, that actually may be the worst thing for you long term, in a sense that what's the one thing you don't want to be in the National Football League? Right around 9 to 10 wins with no chance of winning a Super Bowl. That's called purgatory. You're much better off being extremely bad or elite, where you actually have a shot in the tournament. If you're right in that middle, you're kind of in a road to nowheresville. And again, if you want to go out there, and I don't want to use the word tank, but if you want to be in position to draft one of these quarterbacks that everyone talks about, that's on the magazine covers, 9 or 10 wins is actually the worst thing. Also, to add upon your point about the quarterbacks, Jason, there's a real imbalance between the AFC and NFC. It seems to me the AFC has most of the elite quarterbacks. So beyond the division, just being in that conference, chances are you're going to be at a deficit on most weeks if you're the Cleveland Browns at the most important position in the game of football.
Yeah, I don't. We'll have to ask Danny about that, and because he never talked about the division, and so maybe it's just an oversight and he forgot. But they're in a really rough division. They're in a really rough conference. It would shock the world. And you're counting on a 40-year-old Joe Flacco to squeeze 9 or 10 victories out of that? Or, Shedeur would have to come in and be damn near like his daddy at the quarterback position in order for me to see them get to 9 or 10 victories. Hey, I want to play you one other thing related to the Browns, related to Dylan Gabriel. We talked about it yesterday. his sideline interview where he talked about not being an entertainer. He's a competitor. He came out and clarified he was talking about the media. Somehow Stephen A. Smith is suggesting that the Fourth Estate, the media, is going to hold a grudge over this and that Dillon Gabriel will pay a consequence. Let's listen to Stephen A.
I never believed he was talking about Shedeur Sanders. I totally believed him when he said he was talking about the media. I want to get that out the way first. I don't think he was talking about Shedeur Sanders as well. I think when you heard the comparisons were emanating from the media more so than anybody else. And that's what I think, that's exactly who I think he was directing his comments towards. Having said that, Dillon Gabriel, respectfully, it was stupid. A very dumb comment to make. First of all, let me tell you something right now. In every walk of life, far beyond the parameters of a football field, people are competing. We compete here on television. You compete with radio shows. You compete on Wall Street. You compete on Madison Avenue. Everything, especially in America, as it pertains to a capitalistic society, involves competition. To the victor goes the spoils. There are people that are, Jimmy Johnson said it best. He said, I will be very, very consistent in treating you as inconsistently as possible. Those who produce get treated differently than those who don't. What he said echoes the mentality of all of America practically, and most certainly the world, as we see things being globalized more and more every day. It was a stupid, idiotic, immature comment because clearly you were feeling the heat because a lot of people was talking about how Shedeur should be QB number 2. But I know he was not talking about Shedeur Sanders. He was talking about the media. Here's the problem. You've now heightened the level of scrutiny coming your way because the media, including myself, heard what you said. So in other words, it's entertainment. It's not competition, really. So when you go out there and you compete like trash, because you will have days when you look like that, we're going to remember those comments. And we're going to remember the shot that you took at the Fourth Estate, which is the media institution. Whether we like to or not, some of us will be kind, like myself, because we don't want to do that to you. Others will be merciless. But in the end, no one will be wrong because who instigated that fury against you? It would be you. Very, very idiotic and stupid for you to say what you said.
That seems way over the top. You know, what do they say about only the hit dog barks? And so, whatever Dillon Gabriel said must have just struck Stephen A. really wrong. Your reaction to Stephen A.'s comments here?
I never thought for 1 second, and I guess I am a member of the media, that when that happened, I don't know, Jason. I didn't go out throughout the weekend saying, boy, when Dillon Gabriel has a bad game, we're going to slaughter him. So you're telling me that the media as a whole is going to hold a grudge and is just going to be waiting to slaughter and rip this kid and just downright slander him over comments made on a sideline interview in the second preseason game in the middle of August. That's what he's saying. Jason, I'll just have to respectfully disagree with Mr. Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, I don't remotely understand this. Yeah, I actually do. Stephen A. is that thin skin. And when he talks about people being entertainers, when Dillon Gabriel does, he's talking directly about Stephen A. Smith. He's taken this all personally, and it makes no sense. He can't. The guy's making $20 million a year, a third-round quarterback. A kid makes a comment during a sideline interview that, you got to go this over the top. It was idiotic. It was stupid, and we're going to remember. And when you're out there and you have trash performances, this is all, and it's all building, and it's all Deion and Shedeur related. It's building an argument that, hey, Shedeur, not only on the field, but off the field, he's been more mature than Dillon Gabriel. He's been more sophisticated than Dillon Gabriel. And if Shedeur makes any sort of verbal slip up or whatever, Stephen A. Smith, Ryan Clark, the whole little Dion groupie gang, they will rationalize it and explain it away. But when it's Dylan Gabriel, now it's stupid and idiotic. Everything about this is just manufactured Dion hype.
Well, Jason, didn't Shador confront Tony Grossi after the opening preseason game, basically saying, why don't you like me? How come? Well, wait a minute. So you're saying that's worse than this rather innocuous comment that was taken out of context in an interview? I will say this one thing about athletes where they do get a bad rap, and I see this in boxing a lot. A boxer that wants a particular big fight or a big star will be asked about, hey, how come you're not fighting this guy, and why are you stuck with this fight? The boxer will then answer, hey, look, that's the fight I want. I've been calling him out. And then invariably, everyone forgets about the fact that the athlete was asked a question specifically dealing with another boxer. And what happens? The public says, well, that guy's always bringing up this guy. He's obsessed with it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. To be fair, we as the media asked him that question. So maybe Stephen A. ought to ask, well, wait a minute. Why did we put Dylan Gabriel in that position to even have a soundbite of that nature? This goes both ways, to be fair.
It does go both ways. All right, Steve, great point. I want to move on. I want to move on to Rich Eisen. He returned to SportsCenter last night. He's being hailed as one of the great all-time SportsCenter anchors. I'm not sure if that's the case. He spent a lot of time last night, not a lot of time, but he spent some time talking about his former partner, Stuart Scott, when he was on ESPN SportsCenter previously. Talked a lot about Stuart Scott. And I'm someone that thinks that Stuart Scott's kind of getting the Kobe treatment. You know, Stuart Scott in his day was pretty polarizing. A lot of people loved him. A lot of people did not like Stuart Scott. A lot of people. And I've watched people. I used to watch Deadspin trash Stuart Scott. And then once he got cancer and once he died, then Deadspin flipped on a dime, and Stuart Scott was one of the greatest people to ever hit the planet Earth. And Deadspin published pieces looking over Stuart Scott's shoulder, trying to prove that he was cheating on his wife. And now, and I'm talking about this is Deadspin before it got killed. They changed on a dime. But the other thing, Rich, trying to be a callback to the glory days of ESPN and SportsCenter, and I just don't think it's possible. Because one, I think Rich Eisen is even different than he was in his previous tenure at ESPN. ESPN is no longer a frat house, boys club. The sports media is no longer a frat house, boys club. So you can bring all these guys back from the 1990s, but they've been remade into the 2025 people that can survive in this environment. And so bringing Rich Eisen back, and I'm someone that liked Rich Eisen, think he's a talented broadcaster, but I also think he's done what's necessary to survive in this environment, and he's gone woke. And so I find it somewhat pointless that he's being brought back and like it's a callback to the good old days, because he's like everybody else. He's been made brand new. Anyway, your thoughts on big deal, little deal, no deal, Rich Eisen back at ESPN and back on SportsCenter?
Well, just me personally, it's no deal to me. I haven't watched a full-blown SportsCenter, I would say, in about maybe 10 to 15 years. I mean, generally, Jason, the most I'll watch of a SportsCenter is College Football Saturday. I'll watch the first A block, maybe B block, and as soon as they get away from college football, I'm turning to another game or another network that has, guess what, more college football. And you're right. The anchors of today are not allowed to be what they were. One of my personal favorites, if he saw ESPN right now, he'd be rolling over in his grave. The acerbic Tom Mees. No nonsense. The guy was kind of, he was the type of guy that you don't know if he knew he was in a good mood, but he was funny, but he delivered the news. He was pretty much a straight guy. But when I saw the coverage of the NFL draft and almost this over-the-top outrage or the obsession with Shedeur Sanders, it was almost like, to me, Rich Eisen was paying his dues.
I want to play this clip of him last night honoring Stuart Scott. Let's start there. Let's play that clip.
How you doing? Hey, what's up?
That's exactly what Jordan would have picked.
I promise Rich and I will not be fighting on the set again here on SportsCenter.
Serving 2 minutes for bankruptcy with Stuart Scott, I am Rich Eisen. Uncle Ben.
Don't worry about it.
There are a few things that I've said where, oh, man, I wish I didn't say that.
Those who are late do not get fruit cup.
2 snaps up from 2 good teams.
I feel like this is the opening of the Addams Family instead of SportsCenter.
They're talking, they're just gonna have a little no, they're just playing the feud! They're playing the feud!
So sometimes we need the Rich to Stu and Stu to Rich dictionary that we just place right in the middle of it.
Booyah!
No, I thought
You said you was, I thought you said you was all right.
Rich, what does Pop Goes the Weasel mean?
Wonderful!
Call this kid Butter, because he is on a roll.
How'd you know?
Just, come on, put it on, all right? All right.
Give me my size and everything.
It looks good.
Thank you.
It looks
Feels good. Thanks.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, man.
Cool.
It has been a blast being here tonight, but listen, we all know there should be someone else right here in this chair next to me. Right there. As he was for my 7 years in the role he referred to as my TV wife. And that's my dear late friend, Stuart Scott, who is indeed looking over my shoulder tonight. I frequently think of Stuart a lot and what he might think of the sports headlines of the day, like, say, Bill Belichick being the head football coach at his beloved school. We used to host SportsCenters after LeBron's high school games, so what would Stuart think of James still playing at age 40 with 40,000 points? And with all these new crossing of sports TV streams, like, say, ESPN buying NFL Network and partnering up with my daily show, what would it look like if Stuart sat in with, say, Ernie, Shaq, Kenny, and Charles when Inside the NBA comes here to ESPN this fall? I could go on and on because I miss Stuart so very much. He should be in that chair with me, with us tonight.
That was pretty touching, but for me, more than anything, it was a reminder, particularly when they showed the old SportsCenter commercials that were actually funny.
Yeah.
Whether, again, I wasn't the biggest Stuart Scott fan in his prime, but these guys were all likable. It felt like I knew guys like them. And so what that nostalgia that they're calling back to me, only references how bad things have gotten. That they used to be genuinely funny. Craig Kilborn, Dan Patrick, all these, Chris Berman. I love Chris Berman. It was generally fun and funny and relatable, and that is now all but disappeared. There is a woman basically paired with a guy on every SportsCenter, and most of these women, they're not Linda Cohn, they're not Susie Colbert, they're not they're woke little bald-headed angry people. It just you know, they're Elle Duncan playing like she's Harriet Tubman. When, you know, it just, I don't know, the whole nostalgia thing, I think it's a bit of a mistake for ESPN because it just reinforces how bad they are right now.
Yeah, at this point, this would be like people moving back into Chernobyl. It's toxic. Just stay out. It's ruined. It's not inhabitable anymore. You know what's interesting about the This Is SportsCenter ad campaign? I thought it was one of the most brilliant things I ever saw. They were a show within themselves. I thought the first 25 to 30 were just incredibly well done. Like you felt part of a community. And you know, you brought up some female anchors. one of my personal favorites growing up as a kid, because I thought she was very elegant. She was incredibly professional. And I got the sense that if someone wore a Detroit Lions number 20 jersey, she would know it was Billy Sims. Gail Gardner. When I saw Gail Gardner, I said, you know what? That's a pro. Nice lady, great voice. And when she elevated her career to NBC, and I think in like 86, 87, I remember watching her on like NFL Today. Every time I saw Miss Gardner, I'd be like, God, I knew her when, man. Gail, you all right. You're good, you. Now it's just it's like, it really doesn't matter. You're right. They fit this cultural and political profile. They shove that agenda down the viewers' throats, and then they wonder why we don't like it. But we were lucky, though, Jason. We grew up in an era before the Disney-ification of the four-letter network. It truly was a special place at one time.
Steve, we both came up with our top 5 ESPN sports anchors of all time, SportsCenter anchors of all time. I want to read mine first. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for this because I kept it real, and I shouldn't have kept it real. I should have played the political game, but I just kept it real. Susie Colbert is my all-time favorite SportsCenter anchor. I was right there with Joe Namath. Right there. You put a little liquor in me, and I would have pulled a Joe Namath on Susie Colbert. I think I can't remember where, at the ESPYs or the Super. Anyway, Susie Colbert would be my number 1. Chris Berman would be number 2. He's been vilified for the last 15, 20 years. I've never understood it. This guy was incredible. He was talented. His nicknames and all that. I don't understand why someone just decided, hey, let's trash Chris Berman for a living. Mistake. I was a big Craig Kilborn fan, thought he was incredibly funny, wish he had never left for Late Night Talk. Dan Patrick, obviously incredible. And then, again, I'm going to buttress my number 1 point by keeping it all the way real. Man, I used to have a thing for Lindsay Zarniak. Loved her on SportsCenter. I'm just keeping it real.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
Get your mind out of the
I know I'm going to get trashed in the chat. Yeah. It's not even in the gutter. It's just keeping it real. That's who I like. That's my top 5. All right, Steve, yours.
First of all, again, I want to pay special tribute to Tom Mees, one of the original group members, one of the original iconic figures of ESPN. He should have been on the list, but he's 5'8". Number 1, Chris Berman. I'm with you, Jason. I didn't understand it. I guess, yeah, he could be overbearing. He could be too much. But the nicknames, I don't know about you, but in baseball practice and for you in football practice during warm-ups, we would have a contest to see who could remember more of those monikers. Tonight, let it be Lowenstein, Eddie, Eat, Drink, and B. Murray, Steve or a Tisk or a Tasker, Jose, Can You See, Cruz. It was fun. It was iconic. And then him on the NFL show with, what's his face? Tom Jackson was unbelievable. To me, he was on the Mount Rushmore of ESPN regardless. Okay, I know people are raising eyebrows at the KO kid Keith Olbermann because of his politics, which, again, we're probably diametrically opposed as can be. But we have to be honest. He was a really smart, clever sports anchor in LA. I grew up watching him. Then he went to ESPN, and Jason, that Sunday night SportsCenter with him and Dan Patrick, it was the television version of rolling out the Sunday paper. You had to watch it. Didn't matter what time of year it was. You felt as though when you watched those 90 minutes with the Sunday conversation and all that other stuff, you're like, I got it. Now I'm ready to start the new week. Keith Olbermann at his best. He could be polarizing, but he was brilliant. Charlie Steiner. Now, I know people are going to say, what about him? Charlie Steiner gave a gravitas. He was professional. For me, I'm biased. He was a boxing guy. And what really sealed it for me was his reaction to the Carl Lewis national anthem. Remember when they played that? And then Charlie Steiner looked like he was about to burst because he was trying not to laugh, but he was laughing so hard, he almost exploded. Right there, I said, you know what? I got to put you in the top 5. And then, of course, the elegant, lovely Miss Gail Gardner.
Steve, great job. Thank you, as always. I got to keep it moving. We'll see you next time. I want to talk about, and Shemeka and Virgil are going to help me talk about Amanda Seales, this leftist Hollywood actress, comedian of some, she got clowned by a group of black conservative young people. Maybe it'll go down in history as, you know, like the winds really are changing. You just can't, these young black people aren't just going along to get along with all these leftist talking points. So we're going to do that next. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the Sunday Revival launch. I want to take a break for a moment to speak directly to you here at The Blaze. We've always stood for truth, freedom, and faith in God and country. And those aren't just words. It's a commitment we strive to live by every day. And now we want to help you carry that faith with you into your week, wherever you are. Starting this Sunday, we are launching a new series called Sunday Revival. New episodes will be available every Sunday morning for Blaze TV subscribers. You'll hear inspiring messages from leaders like Pastor Jack Graham from Prestonwood Baptist Church, Pastor Alan Jackson from right here in the Nashville area, and Murfreesboro from World Outreach Church, Josh Howerton at Lake Point Church, Rob McCoy from Godspeed Calvary Chapel, and many more to come. Join us each week and discover additional perspectives to help deepen your understanding and faith. Regardless of what's happening in our chaotic world, Sunday Revival is here to help you grow, stay grounded in God's word, and continue to strengthen your faith. Join us this Sunday on Blaze TV and start your week with purpose, faith, and inspiration. Shemeka Michelle, Virgil Walker, next. We went through this deal where Barack Obama, he's this generational political force of nature. That was all manufactured by the media. Barack Obama is not some brilliant orator. Barack Obama is a relatively good-looking, half-black, half-white guy. And he spoke decently. What you're seeing from Nick Fuentes, that's a brilliant politician, orator. He's just 26. He just went toe-to-toe with Alex Jones and had Alex Jones eaten out of his hand. This young dude, he's super talented. I also think he's misguided. And I also think he's been prepared and groomed for this moment. And I'm not sure if his agenda has anything to do with true salvation, spiritually, or for America. All right, welcome back. Shemeka, Michelle, and Virgil Walker joining me for this segment. Guys, I want to play for you a couple of clips from Amanda Seales. She was debating with some young black people, I think men and women, and she was getting schooled here. At one point, well, we'll play the full clip here and you'll get my reaction to her advising this young man to talk to her like she is his mother. I got a strong reaction to that. Let's play the clip.
You can give everyone here like a $50,000 check, especially people that are in the streets who are committing violent crimes consistently. A $50,000 check, it's not going to fix anything. It's not going to increase the median household income in the next 10 years by 10% or 20%. For example, we have the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. We prevented Chinese people from getting citizenship and even entering the country. We discriminated against them and basically put them under apartheid, even here in the United States. Yet they have the highest median household income. How is that possible? How come they don't complain and feel entitled consistently to beg for reparations and beg for this when they are killing each other 90% of the time, which is the rate that black people kill each other, according to the FBI?
Oh, young Matt.
Yet white people are the oppressors.
I'm not sure where your education came from, but they lied to you.
Stats don't lie, though.
Statistics lie all the time. So let's start there, particularly when the statistics are coming from the sources that gain from the statistics being shown a different way. So if you're going to start your argument on stats don't lie, you've already lost the argument. They lie all the time. One, comparing Chinese people who are immigrants that made a choice to come to the United States and comparing the continued effort of Black people to ground themselves in a nation that continues to make impediments for them to show and live and exist in their true citizenship is a false equivalency.
I don't believe that happens at all. No one here is in.
Are you
being
acting
impinged on
right now?
anything.
Do you really
I'm
believe
telling
this?
the truth. There's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist? I think the only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people. The University of Western Washington, for example, has been trying to segregate dormitories, using Black-only dormitories because Black people feel safer amongst each other. But they're more likely to kill each other than white people are ever to kill them. That's just the truth. You have King Von rapping about killing other Black men. Why should I think that the white man is the oppressor when Black men are more likely to kill me?
Oh my
Tell me.
God, this is scary. You need to think about me as your mama. Do not talk to me in that fashion. So let's check that now.
Okay.
Okay? So on a basic level, we have to understand that systemic racism is grounded in the realities that Black people have not been considered an equal human being in this country since its onset. So there's simply no way to make the argument that there isn't systemic racism, and we have seen in very clear ways the system operate in an organically racist way. Do not cut me off.
This is a big part of my problem. It's why I'm so polarizing and misunderstood. The whole key to that deal was when she said, talk to me like I'm your mama or blah, blah, blah. And that's Black men have allowed themselves to be controlled by Black women, gatekept by Black women, put in their place by Black women. And it all starts with mama's at the top and she's the final authority on everything. White people they got their long little version of it called Happy Wife, Happy Life. Black people have our version of it called Happy Mama and Shut the F Up. That's our version of it. And so she played that card of, hey, I'm older than you, I'm the authority, I'm the woman, talk to me like your mama. It's an electric fence and some kind of whatever they put around a dog's neck to make sure he gets shocked. This Black mother worship deal is an electric fence gatekeeping Black people and Black men from the truth and trying to live out that truth. That I find it very annoying, but I have to admit, it's been very effective. Virgil, am I crazy?
No, it's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of saying you're a racist, right? The whole point of which is to shut down conversation. She couldn't do that with him because he was a Black man. So she couldn't say, well, you're a racist, or that's white supremacy. She couldn't do that because she had another man standing in front of her, sitting in front of her with the same pigment and with the same melanin in his skin. So the next best thing, to the point that you're making, was to add on to talk to me like I'm your mama. And so she had to establish a position of authority over him so that the facts that she claimed to be presenting would have weight, would carry weight. Everything he said was spot on. And when she even tried to debunk the idea that his statistics were lying statistics, the reality is that Asians, Indians in particular, are actually the wealthiest Americans by group. And there's reasons for that. There's cultural reasons for that, that if she were smart at all, she would at least identify what those cultural issues are that cause Indians, Asians to be successful and apply those same principles to Black culture. But rather than do that, rather than have an honest conversation, it's easier to say, well, you need to talk to me like I'm your mama. And that's supposed to shut down debate.
Shemeka is the only Black mother on the show today. Your reaction?
Yeah, I thought it was rich that she told him that, considering she's not a mama and has no idea how a son or a child should speak to her in the first place. I don't even take Amanda seriously. She's not a serious person to me. She's a child Nickelodeon star who grew up, went to Columbia, got her master's in African American studies with a concentration in hip hop. So she is one of these light, almost white, light bright, almost white, who just constantly wants to prove how Black she is. And she does it in a condescending, belittling way. She is to me, she is the poster child for it's better for a man to sit on the corner of his rooftop than to share a home with a quarreling woman. Every time we turn around, Amanda is angry. She's in some type of argument with someone she's hard to work with. These are the things that people have said about her, and it's so clear that she just wants to be this angry, bitter black woman, and that's how she constantly feels like she has to present herself. I just don't take her seriously. She didn't even have any type of facts to go against this young man. All she wanted to do was shut him down because he had facts and he was presenting things to her that she could have had an argument against had she done any type of studying. But her concentration is in hip hop and she wants to tell lies because these people who actually, when you live in black communities, there's no way you can say that's not happening. I can look around with just my children and the amount of people that they've lost, that they've gone to school with for murder, compared to what I had to experience growing up. It's getting worse. And anyone who says that that's not the case is just lying.
How did we get here? Is there something beyond the obvious in terms of feminism would be the obvious example, and that black women have been fed feminism as a solution, and black men have seemingly fallen under the same spell. It's like we're handing over authority to black women, and we don't even want the responsibility of it. I mean, I'm speaking in generalities, but Virgil, how did we get here to where there is this little respect? If we took that clip of this woman telling, and talk to me like I'm your mama and blah, 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 if we took that clip and played it for the average black man in 1940, he might, hey, what are we doing here? This is crazy. Go, shut up, and a man is talking, you know, instead of these T-shirts, be quiet, a black woman's talking. Everybody was wearing, be quiet, a man is talking, and we were probably in much better shape then. How did we get here?
I think our friend Chad Johnson does a fantastic job looking back historically at what took place. Chad Jackson did a great job with his his documentary, looking back historically at what transpired in black communities. How Marxism infiltrated every movement that was some pro-black or civil rights related movement. How Marxism invaded the civil rights of Martin Luther King, and how all of those things combined with what would take place, in historically in black communities where we were getting welfare, where we were getting government handouts, where we were getting freebies, and in an effort to help black people, the goal was remove the man from the home, remove the man from spaces and places where they were necessary. That was what was happening. And now in that vacuum, the voice of women had become so loud that young black men can't respond any other way. In fact, if you noticed and you watched him, he almost, the young man, the conservative, almost had a Pavlovian response to her challenging him. Yes, ma'am. He cowered down a bit, though he was sharing the facts. There's an automatic response in young black men in particular when that kind of language, idea, thought process, I'm a woman, you need to listen to me roar, is being stated, and it's unfortunate because again the young man had the facts behind him. He stood 10 toes down, and really she got her hat handed to her in this entire debate.
Shemeka, I'm going to make an analogy I've made before. It's probably been a year or two since I've said this on the show, but it's a point that I think is pretty powerful in terms of explaining the difference in the way black men are beaten up mentally and how white men and I hate to do that, but they have a different relationship with women, with their mother, with feminism. And I make the point by saying Eminem is one of the most popular rappers, if not the most popular rapper of all time, and his songs are laced with complaints about his mother. Laced with. He takes dumps on his mother. Very popular rapper. The most popular rapper, probably of all time, is Tupac Shakur. His songs are laced with a celebration of his mother. Tupac and Eminem, I think, had the same types of mothers. They were both strung out on drugs and irresponsible and blah, blah, blah. Tupac writes songs, even though you're a black queen, mama, or a drug fiend, you're still a black queen, and all this, just a celebration of his drug-using, irresponsible mother. Eminem gets to make songs telling the truth about his mother, and I find that just fascinating, just in terms of the mindset of black men. We can't criticize, correct, lead black women anywhere, while Eminem and other groups seem to have a lot more freedom. You know, I'll land the plane here and just let you react, but I can remember watching The Sopranos in real time. And this is when I was still conflicted in my mind, but The Sopranos, Tony Soprano had real conflict with his mother. And the whole show was really about Tony Soprano's dysfunctional relationship with his mother, and he was going to see a psychiatrist about it, and he had real complaints about his mother. And like, this is all explored on The Sopranos. And as a black person watching it, the way I was mentally then, I was really man, I can't believe Tony don't like his mama. And even when his mama was basically involved in trying to have him killed, I was like, man, I can't believe he's got a problem with his mama. And I look back now when I rewatch it and I say, yeah, he should have had a problem with his mama. You know, she's out of line, she's doing too much. And, you know, I look at it completely different. Anyway, your reaction to any of that, Shemeka?
Yeah, well, we do know that feminism is the root cause of this. And we are like 3 generations into bastards raising bastards in the black community. So it all started once we removed black men from the home, whether that was because they wanted to receive help from the government or during the crack era or mass incarceration. Black men are out of the home, and studies show that black women raising young males have such a horrible, they come out worse than a black woman being raised only by her mother. They end up with anxiety, substance abuse, behavior issues, because typically this woman is a lot more harsh with her male children than her female children because she feels like she has to. But that harshness and her being overcritical has serious long-term effect on this young male. We also know that women are more abusive than men when it comes to children. So when we look at just what we've had to endure as black people, when you were raised in a single parent home and now we're 3 generations in, it's no wonder that we have all of these men who are have been castrated by women, because this is just the way that you were raised. And so I feel sorry for a lot of people, especially these young men, having to deal with people that actually use that to their advantage, like we watched Amanda do in this video, because it's a real problem. And our men are really suffering behind that. And no one wants to say, let's let's reject the ideas of feminism that have caused us to be in this situation in the first place. People are not really pushing. We need to get back to having traditional families and traditional values, because when we look around, we see that feminism has destroyed the black community. And we're like 3 generations in now, but no one wants to actually stand 10 toes down and on what's right. People want to keep cowering and afraid to talk about it, saying, I'll never put down a black woman. Like you said, Tupac himself said, even though you were a crack fiend, mama, you always were a black queen. She was a crack fiend. And we have to start calling these women out. Instead, We have Hallmark making cards for them for Father's Day saying they're the mother and the father, when we know that absolutely is not possible.
It feels like my whole life, I'm 58, black men have been trained to be deferential to black women. And if that's the case, it seems like then it should be fair. Hey, let's try it a different way. Let's train up the next 60 years of people for black women to be deferential to black men. Let's try that and see what results we get. I just want to try it. Give me 20 months of it. It doesn't even have to be 20 years. Maybe 2 weeks. Let's have Black Woman Deferential to Black Men Week. Let's do that instead of Juneteenth, let's have a week of that. Let's just see how it goes. Anyway, I want to play one more clip from Amanda Seales and her debate. Let's play the next clip.
Crime. So I think I'm coming from a place, and I guess my issue is having had my biological father murdered by a black man, having had my cousin shot in the head by a black man. We can talk numbers and statistics and what the people are doing, and what the white man is doing and all that, but at the end of the day, I see when my family lives on the south side of Chicago, and I think you and I both can attest to this, and I'm not saying that there are not other factors, but we know that we kill each other at a disproportionate rate than any other race. Now, why we do that and why 6,000 to 9,000 black men are gonna be homicided or killed or whatever by the end of the year annually by other black men, whereas the likelihood of a black man being killed by a white police officer is less than 150 per year, we know that we kill each other at a higher rate. So I'm not debating that there are not factors at play, but because I've lived the experience as a black woman losing my father to be murdered by a black man, walking down the street,
to hear that, by the way.
No worries, thank you. But walking down the street in inner cities and different things, knowing that it's more likely that my own brother will rob and rape me than a white man or a white officer, we got to be real.
What's your proximity to white men in the south side of Chicago? Are there even white men around to rob and rape you at the same rate that there are black men?
There are white men around.
At the same rate?
There wasn't a lot of black people in there, but then that doesn't justify the fact that we're destroying each other. So even if we get to the root, like
we can agree on that,
okay,
sis.
because I feel like a lot of
Nothing
times liberals will argue
justifies,
like, well,
I'm not
the
a
white people
liberal.
are killing
I am
people.
I'm not a liberal.
Okay, well, I will say that people that sometimes have your stance that are against conservatives, maybe, they have this claim that they're making up the numbers. We know that we do that to each other. So I want to get to the root of the issue. Why are we killing each other? I think the root of the issue is we've lost our values and we've lost our resilience as black people. We sit there and we talk about what the white man did and we talk about slavery and everything like that, but we have no self-accountability and say, you know what, at the end of the day, that is my black grandmother, that is my black sister, you are my black sister, and you know that a black man is more likely to rob you or commit some type of crime against you, and that's what we need to get down to the issue of. And like you were talking about earlier, like, hey, well, what's going on? You know, what do you think the answer is to one of the brothers that were speaking? I think it's the breakdown of the family.
Somebody should be very, very pleased with themselves for raising that young lady. Shemeka, was that your daughter?
No, not in that almost blonde wig. It wasn't. But I did like the way that she was actually speaking and speaking facts. You know, it annoys me when I hear black people say, well, our violence or our crime is intraracial. Of course, you're going to be killed by people that you are around. It's the same for white people. So there's no such thing as black on black crime. Well, statistically, we kill each other at a greater rate than white people kill other white people. That's the issue. We're not arguing that you die by who you live around or who you're in close proximity to. We're talking about the fact that we do it more often. That's an issue. And so it really irritates me when I hear people say, try to come with the argument, the whole, what about Brett Favre? It really bothers me because now we're ignoring the amount of people that are losing their lives. And a lot of these people are children. They are kids. But in order to one up the white person or one up somebody else in an effort to cover up what we're doing, we will ignore the amount of kids that are dying at very alarming rates because we want to pretend like it's not happening because it's intraracial. Yeah, we understand that, but why are we doing it at greater amounts than other races?
No daddies in the home is why, but Virgil, you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was a a drop the mic moment for this young lady. And it was really, the debate was over. I mean, she asked another question with the hope of tripping the young lady up. And she didn't flinch. She said the issue is families, it's fathers, it's no fathers in the home. And she's spot on. I would go further to say there's no God in the home either, right? No one's worshiping God. No one's pointing to the gospel. No one's opening a Bible. Everyone is still looking at symptoms. Even an absent father is a symptom of a larger problem of the fact that we've disconnected ourselves from God, from his governance, from his way of doing things, and chosen our own way. We've decided that we're going to do things the way we see fit, and then we see the outcome and the fruit thereof. I will say this, Jason, you had mentioned earlier, about the historically speaking and the generations of people that have been raised in kind of the matriarchal society. I'm blown away by the fact, and you and I are real close in age, but I'm blown away by the fact that there are young people who are beginning to open their eyes to what's happening, that there were enough conservative, if that's what the title was, that there were enough conservative young Black people to fill the room. I remember a time, I've always held these beliefs. I remember a time when I'd be the only one in the room, where there wasn't anyone else in the room. You couldn't have filled a room with enough Black conservatives to have that kind of a conversation. And so I look at this with hope that perhaps young people are listening to other young people who are saying the right kinds of things as they point people to the God-ordained values that we've been given based upon Scripture.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that room is inspiring, and it is people going down. And again, not that Eminem is right or a good role model or an example, but it's like the self-accountability, the willingness to like, hey man, are we going to keep repeating these talking points that don't make sense? Because it's just Amanda Seales, when she tried to trip the woman up with, well, it's proximity. Are white people, are they even around you so they could kill you? Cut it out, lady, because Amanda Seales lived long enough, and that young Black woman has lived long enough to know that, hey, look, if I go to a Black-dominated nightclub, there will be metal detectors and me getting patted down as I walk into the deal. And it doesn't matter what neighborhood this nightclub is in, they can move it out to the suburb, but if it caters to Black people and plays hip-hop music, you're going to go through some metal detectors to get in, because everybody knows, someone could be packing a gun and someone will shoot. You can go to any white club that plays country music, that plays rock music, that plays grunge. I don't even know what the music is, whatever. There's no metal detectors because there's no expectation. Well, and it may happen from time to time, but there isn't an expectation. I've been Black for 58 years. Started going to clubs probably when I was 19 years old. Everybody knows, like, man, we're going up to Chicago tonight to kick it, and we're going to this club. And when we leave the club, we're looking around to make sure that, ain't nobody acting up, nobody shoot. And it's not, when you go to a white club, you don't have those expectations. And so she can cut it out. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows, and I'm just glad to see kids like, man, I'm done playing this game. You liberals have talked us into a level of insanity and delusion and denial that's actually killing us. We can't, it's, I had this whole thing connected to, well, I'm gonna connect it to my next thing on Angel Reese and all that, but I wanna thank you guys. I gotta let you go. I wanna get to As the WNBA Turns. Thank you, Virgil and Shemeka. We'll see you next time. When we come back, I got some thoughts, serious thoughts, on Angel Reese and what's been going on behind the scenes. I've been getting these threatening emails, and just, don't talk about them, you're only going to get more. Well, probably, but nothing I can do about it. So I'm going to talk about it and connect it to this criminal element that we've unleashed in all of American society, in everything. that we've empowered thugs to take control of everything. And you can see it in D.C. to where things have gotten so out of hand. Donald Trump has had to send in the National Guard. I'm going to connect that to my topic on As the WNBA Turns next.
Too much talk. Everybody got an opinion. Somebody's sitting around getting fat, you know, thinking they know how to do it. Just because you can sit behind a desk and chit-chat doesn't mean you can do a damn thing.
Those are bars.
I'm serious.
You know, just...
Come get up here with me. Let's find out. Come get in the gym with me. Let's find out.
To me, this feels like someone put a battery in Denzel's back. You know, when you're a celebrity at Denzel's level, all of your friends end up being other celebrities. Sounds to me like he's friends with Deion Sanders and LeBron James, and he doesn't like the way, because I think there's other parts of this where Bronny James was part of this conversation that he was having. He doesn't like the way Bronny James and Shedeur are being talked about. He's friends with Deion and LeBron, and hey, go in there and beat up Stephen A. Smith, take a little pot shot. Whitlock's more dangerous, so be clever with your pot shot at Whitlock. Whitlock's also very religious, and he'll call you out, Denzel, about you being a Christian and clapping your hands and applauding the Alphabet Mafia crew. So he was very careful in how he came at me. I don't blame him.
As the WNBA Turns, starring Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson. Brought to you by George Soros, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and the Global Elite.
All right, welcome back. This is a more serious conversation on As the WNBA Turns. You guys know that I've been critical of Angel Reese from time to time throughout her WNBA career, throughout her college career when she trolled Caitlin Clark. And here recently, and I'm not blaming Angel Reese, but I'm just telling you what's been going on. I would say in the last week to 10 days, I've been receiving a series of emails of people making veiled and somewhat direct threats at me. And so I want to, the one I got 8 hours ago, Jason, you're a disgusting human being for lying about Angel Reese. I would love it if you were taken hostage and tortured. Another one, Jason, you ought to have your head on a pike for what you're doing to Angel Reese. Jason Whitlock deserves to be lit on fire for slandering Angel Reese. Jason, you're a sick, evil bastard for slandering Angel Reese. I'm praying that you have a heart attack, which may very well happen since you're an obese whale. They just go on and on and on like that. And who knows, maybe they're just hardcore Angel Reese fans. Maybe they're just Angel Reese nut jobs, but it seems pretty orchestrated. And what I see it as is like, hey, let's send these veiled threats and we'll shut Jason Whitlock up, because it's not worth the hassle of, if he keeps talking about Angel Reese and he's critical and he's getting these emails, he doesn't want these emails. He doesn't need the hassle of that. And I really don't, but there's just, I'm just different, and I'm not going, and I've been at this for a long time and I've never received this kind of consistent thing coming from these manufactured, ginned up email addresses, you know, different names. They're all seem like they're coming from Gmail accounts. I've never experienced this, but I've been in some hot water, and you've certainly, and I'm not accusing Angel Reese of this or anybody connected to Angel Reese of this, but I've been at this a long time. I've had a lot of athletes make serious threats at me, particularly in my younger days in Kansas City when I was a bit more swashbuckling, or who knows? It's just a different time. But it will never move me or stop me from saying what I think. I've been dealing with this for a long time. I'm bringing this up because it makes me sympathetic, empathetic towards a lot of the female broadcasters, journalists, opinionists who have moved into this space. And they're not really built for this. And if you want to know why they have very little critical to say, is because they justifiably don't want to deal with this. Again, if I'm defending these people, I'm not criticizing them, I'm actually defending them. But if I'm Mina Kimes and ESPN has put me in position to talk about the NFL as if I'm some sort of expert, which is already it's a really tough position to put a woman in, a little Asian woman that's never played football, doesn't know what she's talking about. But why would she risk being critical knowing that potentially either through social media or through someone gaining access to her email, she might face these types of emails and harassment? There's no woman that wants to deal with that. There's no woman that should have to deal with that. There's no man that should have to deal with it. But it does go along with the job and with the business. Everybody now, though, is scared. They make a lot of money. They think people are crazy. They know people are crazy, and you can inspire these type of crazy fans. The other aspect that's in play here, as people have all these concerns about their brand. There used to be a time when an athlete's brand was strictly connected to his or hers on field, on court, inside an arena, inside of a stadium performance. Now that we have social media, now that off the court and these political stances and all this other stuff is a part of your brand. People now, brand management. Again, because the solution to what used to be for an Angel Reese, you're struggling offensively or just struggling on the court. Well, you fix your on-court performance, the criticism tamps down. But when you're hosting podcasts and you're trying to be an opinionist, while being an active player, now your opinions and your behavior off the court all come into play. And it's all part of building your brand. And people that are potentially want to make money off you or with you, there's no limit to the things they'll do to protect your brand, including trying to silence people that might say things that diminish your brand. And I'm not remotely suggesting that Angel Reese is in any way connected to the pushback and the feedback that I'm getting. What I'm telling you is we've created an environment where it would make sense for an athlete to be overly concerned about his brand, be involved with people, unsavory people, who may do some unsavory tactics to protect their brand. This applies to all of these athletes today. Clutch Sports has ways of pushing back against people because LeBron's worth $1 billion. He's got an agency. They can work things in a less unsavory way, perhaps force you out of jobs, make it so ESPN or Fox Sports doesn't want you on their airways. They have ways of pushing. Like Michelle Beadle feels like she experienced that from LeBron James in his group and Clutch Sports. And then there's this low-level form of activity. Hey, let's just send some threats. Let's just see if we can back them off that way. And so when you turn and or invite a criminal, unsavory element into the sports world. If you've been listening to me talk about how, like, hey man, ESPN, is he out of jail? Is he out of trouble right now? Hey, let's get him on a show. Oh, Richard Sherman, didn't we just capture him beating down the doors of his in-laws, threatening to beat up somebody? But hey, let's make sure we get him on. Oh yeah, Matt Barnes was known as a thug in the NBA. Steven Jackson is proud and celebrates his checking in with gang members, being a part of the Bloods and all that. Hey, can we get them on a podcast and support that? Hey, Gilbert Arenas, brought guns into the locker room and set his NBA career on fire and set his reputation on fire. Hey, how can we support his podcast and make him part of the ESPN family? Oh, hey, Shannon Sharp has all these allegations from women that have dotted his whole broadcasting career. How can we cut the next deal with him? There's been a ushering in of an unsavory element into sports media. And the biggest part of that is like the whole gambling thing. Hey, let's partner up with all the gambling companies and give them incredible sway in sports. There's a lack of ethics. There's a seedy little underbelly that's being ushered into the mainstream of sports media. And this is what goes along with that. And so I connected to DC, and Trump is like, there's been an unsavory element given power in urban communities, in major cities. They have district attorneys that are always looking for ways to be sympathetic towards the criminal element. And these cities get so out of control that the only way other cities, and they can play games with stats, well, crime is actually down and murders are down, blah, but everybody knows the reality. That's not true. And so what we're seeing in DC has infected and affected every aspect of American society in and around these major cities. And you have to take real extreme measures. Bring in the National Guard, put troops on the ground, have massive surveillance of certain demographics, certain zip codes, certain communities to fix it. And it's playing out this whole little legitimizing of the seedy underbelly of sports. And the desperation of people that like, hey man, other than playing basketball and being tall, I haven't really developed anything else that I have to offer the world. And so once my career is over, or once I get discovered and found out that, hey, maybe I'm not as good at basketball or whatever the sport activity that I'm doing, and I want to live off this brand that I'm building. People get desperate in their attempt to protect that brand because they have nothing else to offer the world. And they want to be celebrities, they want to be rich, they want to cash in as quickly as they can, and perhaps they're dragging people along with them that are also desperate and also willing to go to unseedy, unsavory lengths to try to protect that brand. Not going to work with me, and there will be many people. I can't, you shouldn't have talked about this. You're only going to get more of these emails. Nothing I can do about it because the emails are going to come. People are going to send, and eventually I'll contact law enforcement here and let them go through my emails and try to hunt down who these people are and what their connection is. But if you're trying to understand and you want to be sympathetic towards the media that seems unwilling to tell you the truth, I want you to know what they're dealing with. Because what's happening to me, they know could happen to them, or perhaps it has happened to them. And those people, and I'm being sympathetic to it, they got wives and kids or spouses and kids. They got kids to put through college. And they're just, many people aren't built for conflict. I am, just mentally. I'm built for conflict. And so it doesn't bother me. This has been, par for the course for the most part throughout my entire career. But if you want to know why people are reluctant to criticize these athletes, look no further than my emails. People are consistently sending me veiled threats because I've said a couple things about Angel Reese. It's a wild, crazy world we live in. Probably going to get crazier. And that's why we need to stay prayed up. And anyway, I'm rambling a bit. That's all I got for you today on this show. I do want you to click over to the Harmony channel in 5 minutes. Or maybe 4 minutes actually, 11:45. We'll start on the Harmony channel with a conversation about Nick Fuentes, which will probably get me some emails or tweets complaining about what we're talking about as it relates to Nick Fuentes. But I'm going to stay the course. You guys stay the course. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you here tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation.